keep it moving, and I am gonna blow up your spot one of these days.
It started quietly, then suddenly exploded. One moment the internet was calm, and the next moment Nicki Minaj was everywhere, not because of a new song, not because of a tour, but because she decided to say something she claims she has been holding inside for years. This time, Nicki wasn't throwing sneak disses, she wasn't joking, she wasn't playing. She went straight for Jay-Z, one of the most powerful men in hip-hop, accusing him of owing her hundreds of millions of dollars and secretly blocking her career behind the scenes. And what made it even louder was this: Jay-Z said nothing, no response, no denial, just silence. When someone as big as Nicki Minaj speaks this boldly, people listen. When someone as powerful as Jay-Z stays silent, people start asking questions. Is this a real industry scandal finally coming to light? Or is this a personal issue being handled the wrong way? Because if Nicki is telling the truth, this isn't just about her. This is about how the music industry works, who really controls the money, and what happens when artists trust the wrong people. To understand why this situation matters, we need to rewind to where it all began. Long before the tweets, long before the accusations, there was a vision that promised to change music forever. In 2015, Jay-Z launched Tidal, a music streaming platform that was marketed as an artist-owned alternative to Spotify and Apple Music. The idea sounded perfect. Artists would no longer be exploited. They would finally own a piece of the system instead of being trapped inside it. Jay-Z positioned himself not just as a businessman, but as a savior of creators, someone who understood the pain artists go through and wanted to fix it. To sell that dream, Jay-Z brought together a powerful group of stars. Beyonce, Rihanna, Kanye West, J. Cole, Madonna, and Nicki Minaj were all announced as part owners of Tidal. Each artist was reportedly given a 3% equity stake. That meant ownership, that meant long-term money, that meant trust. Nicki Minaj didn't just put her name on Tidal and walk away, she fully committed to the vision. She promoted the platform heavily on social media, she released exclusive content, she showed up to events. She stood next to Jay-Z and other superstars at the iconic Tidal launch, smiling like someone who truly believed she was building something bigger than herself. At that time, Nicki was one of the biggest artists in the world. Her support mattered, and she gave it willingly. For years, Tidal was pushed as a symbol of independence and fairness. But behind the scenes, things were not as clear as they seemed. The platform struggled to compete with bigger streaming services. Subscriber numbers were questioned, profits were unclear, and slowly, the excitement around Tidal began to fade. Then, in 2021,
I have no idea about their business, but if someone owed me $200 million, then I would be in court, not on X. And I guarantee you, if she ever took that to court, that would be a huge story.
Everything changed. Jay-Z sold the majority stake of Tidal to Jack Dorsey's company, Square, now known as Block. The reported value of the deal was around $300 million, combining cash and stock. It was a major business move and a huge payday. This is where Nicki Minaj says the real problem begins. According to Nicki, when the sale happened, she did not receive what she believed she was owed. Based on her 3% equity stake, basic math suggests she should have received millions of dollars. Some estimates say around $9 million, but Nicki claims she received nothing, not even close. Instead, she says Jay-Z's team offered her $1 million. $1 million to her, that wasn't just disappointing, it was insulting. She described it as a slap in the face. After years of loyalty, promotion, and belief in the vision, she felt cheated.
Dear hashtag Jay-Z, you ruined hip-hop, you ruined football, you ruined basketball, you ruined touring, you ruined Instagram, you ruined Twitter. The jig is up. All of this is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. And she also is saying, she's mentioning Desiree, who is one of Jay-Z's.
You might as well say Jay-Z's the head of Doge. Jay-Z invaded Gaza. You might as well just come on, add some more to that.
Nicki took to social media and made her frustration public. She didn't whisper, she didn't hint, she said it directly. She claimed that calculations showed she was owed anywhere between $100 million to $200 million. She called it a karmic debt and demanded that Jay-Z contact her to settle it. At the same time, she strangely added that Jay-Z was still in her top 5 rappers, showing how complicated her feelings were. What shocked people even more was how detailed and confident she sounded. This didn't feel like a random emotional outburst. It sounded like someone who had been keeping score for a long time. But then came the obvious question: if someone really owes you $200 million, why are you tweeting about it instead of taking them to court? That question was raised publicly by The Breakfast Club, one of the biggest radio shows in hip-hop culture. They weren't disrespectful, but they were honest. Their point was simple. If the money is real and the contracts exist, the courtroom is where this should be handled. Not social media. Some fans agreed. Others didn't. Supporters of Nicki argued that the music industry has a long history of exploiting artists. Especially women, they pointed out that legal battles are expensive, slow, and often controlled by powerful people with endless resources. They also reminded everyone that just because something isn't in court yet doesn't mean it isn't real. Nicki didn't stop at the money. She also accused Jay-Z and Roc Nation of using their influence to quietly block her from major opportunities. One of the biggest examples she pointed to was the Super Bowl halftime show. Over the years, many artists connected to Jay-Z's circle have performed. Nicki believes she was intentionally excluded, not because of talent, but because of politics. To her, this wasn't just business, it felt personal. Jay-Z, meanwhile, remained completely silent. No denial, no clarification, no legal threat. Nothing, and that silence divided the internet even more. Some people saw it as confidence. Others saw it as avoidance. The truth is, without contracts, court filings, or official documents made public, no one outside the situation can say for sure who is right. But what is clear is this: Nicki Minaj feels betrayed. Deeply, this situation also highlights a bigger issue in the music industry. Artists are often encouraged to trust powerful executives and business partners, especially when those partners look like them and speak about empowerment. But ownership structures, equity deals, and profit splits are rarely as simple as they appear on stage or in press releases. Nicki's story, whether proven or not, has forced people to question how many artists have walked away from ownership deals without truly understanding what they signed. It also raises questions about transparency, accountability, and power. At the end of the day, this situation isn't just about Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z. It's about what happens when business, ego, loyalty, and money collide. It's about how silence can sometimes be louder than words, and it's about whether the truth will ever fully come out. Until then, the internet will keep talking, fans will keep choosing sides, and the industry will keep watching closely. Because if Nicki Minaj decides to take this beyond social media, things could get very real, very fast, and if she doesn't, this may go down as one of the most shocking public callouts in hip-hop history, unanswered, unresolved, and unforgettable. This wasn't just about music anymore. This wasn't just about contracts, titles, or business disagreements behind closed doors. The moment she said, "He's stealing from the barbs. He's stealing from students who need that bread to get their education," everything shifted. That framing hit different. It took something that looked like an industry dispute and turned it into a moral fight, a cause. Suddenly, people weren't just arguing about ownership or deals. They were talking about loyalty, power, and who really benefits when billion-dollar figures make quiet decisions. And that was only the beginning of what pushed Nicki Minaj over the edge. Because as heated as the title situation was, it wasn't the only thing that had Nicki's blood boiling. What really set everything on fire was something much bigger, something public, something symbolic. The Super Bowl. In September 2024, the NFL officially announced that Kendrick Lamar would headline the Super Bowl 59 halftime show in New Orleans. And on paper, that sounds like a win for hip-hop. Kendrick is respected, he's decorated. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner, nobody is questioning his talent. But if you understand hip-hop culture even a little bit, you immediately saw the problem. Because there was one name that made far more sense, one name everyone expected, one name that felt inevitable. Lil Wayne. Wayne is New Orleans, born there, raised there, shaped by it. He didn't just come from the city, he carried it on his back for decades. He's the heartbeat of New Orleans hip-hop, the pulse, the living legend. Wayne isn't just a rapper from that city, he is the city. He's one of the greatest to ever touch a microphone. Easily top 5 all-time in the eyes of many. And this Super Bowl wasn't somewhere far away. It was literally in his backyard. For most people in the culture, Wayne headlined.
Now you've also said that Jay-Z, Foxy Brown, and Lil Wayne were some of your biggest influences when you were coming up. What did each of them have that you wanted to emulate?
Jay-Z, business savvy. Foxy Brown, immaculate delivery. Lil Wayne, trendsetter.
Winning the Super Bowl in New Orleans felt like a done deal, a foregone conclusion. It was one of those moments that seemed so perfect you didn't even question it. Wayne, Super Bowl. New Orleans, it writes itself. Fans assumed it, artists assumed it, industry insiders assumed it. It felt like destiny, but then the announcement dropped: Kendrick Lamar, not Lil Wayne, and that's when the questions started. Because the halftime show isn't chosen in a vacuum. Roc Nation co-produces the Apple Music NFL halftime show. Jay-Z's fingerprints are all over the decision-making process. So when Kendrick's name appeared instead of Wayne's, people didn't just shrug and move on. The streets noticed, the culture noticed, and Nicki Minaj definitely noticed. Nicki didn't just react, she went nuclear. She took to X and unleashed a full-on tirade aimed directly at Jay-Z. And she didn't sugarcoat a single word. In her eyes, this wasn't about artistry. This wasn't about who deserved the slop musically. This was about punishment, about ego, about old grudges. She accused Jay-Z of denying a young black man what he had rightfully earned in the game, not because Wayne wasn't qualified, but because of personal issues, because of Jay-Z's long-standing hatred for Birdman, because of tensions involving Drake, because of Nicki herself. In Nicki's mind, Wayne wasn't passed over by accident. He was frozen out on purpose. She called Wayne the GOAT. She called out New Orleans directly, asking how the city could stay silent. And then she crossed a line that made everyone stop scrolling. She brought up Eminem. Nicki pointed out that when Eminem headlined the Super Bowl, he stood firm on having 50 Cent perform with him. No negotiations, no compromises, he didn't bend. And Nicki emphasized something that cut like a razor blade. Eminem is white, and yet, in her eyes, he showed more loyalty, more backbone, and more respect for his day one people than Jay-Z showed to his own community. That line stung. Whether you agreed with Nicki or not, it landed hard. She was essentially saying that a white artist protected his people better than one of hip-hop's most powerful black executives protected his own. That comparison shook the conversation because now this wasn't just about Wayne. It was about leadership, responsibility, and what happens when power moves you further away from the culture that built you. Wayne not getting the Super Bowl slot in his own city didn't just upset the Barbs. Hood legends spoke up, industry veterans spoke up. Casual fans who don't even follow rap politics felt something was off. The reaction was loud, emotional, and widespread. People who rarely agree were suddenly on the same side. And Nicki framed all of it as part of a bigger pattern in her mind. Jay-Z wasn't making isolated decisions, he was using his Roc Nation.
Nicki is launching a piggyback attack on Jay, and we all know, if you haven't, to refresh your memory about why she doesn't like Jay, she claims that Jay, finessed her with the title situation. She also made a claim that Jay-Z owes Nicki Minaj $200 million, right? Now, if you watched her tweets over the last year or so, especially after she's also attacked Jay-Z's company's Roc Nation CEO, Desiree Perez, she's basically accused them of really doing some heinous things or trying to do some heinous things to her. So this is a really deep public feud at this point. Jay-Z's never acknowledged it.
Influenced strategically, deliberately, to freeze out anyone connected to her circle. Lil Wayne, Drake, Birdman, and Nicki herself. The Super Bowl snub was simply the most visible example, the most public, the one that finally pulled the curtain back for everyone to see. And once that happened, everything escalated. This is where the story shifts. From a disagreement into open warfare. From subtle industry politics to full-scale public conflict. From whispers to headlines. From monsterverse to modern warfare. Because here's the part a lot of people miss when they see Nicki Minaj going at Jay-Z online. This isn't some random Twitter beef between two strangers who crossed paths once at an award show. These two have history. Deep history, complicated history. History filled with alliances, expectations, disappointments, and power struggles that go back years. Nicki didn't come into this industry as an outsider. She didn't sneak in through the back door. She was fully embraced by the machine. She was around the biggest names. She watched how power moved. She saw who got protected and who got sacrificed. And for a long time, she played her role. But something changed. At some point, Nicki started believing that the same system that helped elevate her was now actively working against her and the people she loved. And when you mix personal loyalty with public humiliation, the result is explosive. Because to Nicki, Wayne wasn't just a legend, he was family. Drake wasn't just a collaborator, he was family. Birdman wasn't just an executive, he was family. So when Wayne got passed over in his own city, Nicki didn't see a business decision. She saw betrayal, and once that switch flipped, there was no going back. From that moment on, every move was viewed through a different lens. Every decision felt intentional. Every silence felt loud. Every win for the other side felt like another door closing on her own. And Nicki made it clear she wasn't going to stay quiet anymore, because in her eyes, this wasn't about one halftime show. This was about who controls the culture, who gets rewarded, who gets erased, and who pays the price when old grudges meet new power. And that's why this story doesn't end with the Super Bowl announcement. That was just the spark. What followed was the firestorm that changed everything. The silence is loud, not the kind of silence that comes from confusion or fear, but the kind that sits heavy in the room and makes everyone uncomfortable. When accusations
Man, every single person here, John Legend, Billie Eilish, Phineas, Nicki Minaj is not here. She is not here.
Thumbs up happen.
She is still at the White House with Donald Trump discussing very important issues. Actually, Nicki, I have the biggest ass. I have it. Everybody's saying it, Nicki. I know they say it's you, but it's me. Wop, wop, wop. Look at it, baby.
this serious are thrown into the public eye, people usually rush to respond, to deny, to explain, or at least to distract. But this time, something feels different. No emergency statements, no aggressive legal threats, no carefully worded press releases. Just quiet, and that quiet has people asking questions they weren't supposed to ask. Not because it proves anything, but because when the most powerful names in entertainment choose not to speak, the silence itself becomes part of the story. And that is exactly where the situation between Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z begins to feel less like celebrity drama and more like something much deeper, much more uncomfortable, and far more expensive. This does not prove that Nicki Minaj's claims are true. That needs to be said clearly. But what it does do is raise a serious question about why the most powerful entertainment management structure in the world would allow these accusations to sit in public view without challenge in an industry that moves fast to protect its interests. In an ecosystem where narratives are controlled with surgical precision, letting a global superstar make repeated allegations without response is unusual. It forces people to wonder whether silence is a strategy, a calculation, or simply confidence that the truth, whatever it may be, will never fully surface. At the surface level, many people want to reduce the situation to internet beef, tweets, memes, subtle jabs, fans picking sides and arguing online. But that framing misses the point entirely. This conflict is not about clout or attention. Nicki Minaj does not need attention. This is about money, and not small money. We are talking about sums that could reach into the hundreds of millions of dollars, money that Nicki believes she earned. Money she believes was redirected, minimized, or taken from her through corporate maneuvering and deliberate undervaluation of her work. For years, Nicki Minaj was not just an artist, she was a pillar, a brand builder, a global draw. She carried tours, broke records, opened doors, and expanded markets. Her presence generated revenue streams that went far beyond album sales, merchandising, touring, brand partnerships, streaming leverage, and cultural impact all flowed through her name. When someone at that level says they were underpaid or undervalued, it is not a complaint about a bad deal, it is an accusation that the system was built to benefit others more than the person creating the value. This is where power enters the conversation, because in the music industry, money follows power, and power follows control. Who controls the contracts? Who controls the promotion? Who controls the playlists, the award stages, the festival lineups, and the narratives pushed through media outlets? These are not abstract questions. They determine who gets visibility and who slowly disappears from the spotlight. They decide who is celebrated as a legend and who is quietly sidelined. While still producing value, Nicki's frustration seems rooted in the belief that despite her success, her position within the system never translated into real control. She was inside the machine but did not own it, and when decisions were made, she believes they were made without her best interests at heart. That kind of realization changes how a person sees everything. It turns collaboration.
He has, I don't know if he even knows this, but he's given so many people hope that there's a chance to beat the bad guys and to win and to do it with your head held high and your integrity intact. He's from Queens, New York, like me. So, but what it's shown me personally is sometimes, you know, even in the worst feeling times in your life, you think that you're never gonna come back from it, but you do. And our president shows that. He's been through every single thing a person could be through publicly, having to constantly be lied on. It's not really that funny until you are in that person's shoes that's being lied on.
Then in January 2026, she escalated even further.
into suspicion, silence into betrayal, business into something deeply personal. Loyalty is another thread running through this entire situation. At one point, Nicki Minaj and Jay-Z were not opponents, they were allies. They stood on the same side of the table. They shared platforms, business relationships, and mutual benefit. That history matters. Because betrayal always cuts deeper when it comes from someone you trusted. When two people who once aligned find themselves on opposite sides, the resentment is rarely about one moment, it builds over years. Through decisions made behind closed doors and conversations that never happened. What makes this situation even more intense is the sense that Nicki believes she was pushed out of the inner circle. Not gradually, but deliberately. Being frozen out in the entertainment industry does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like missed opportunities, delayed support, less visibility, fewer invitations, smaller stages. It is quiet, subtle, and easy to deny, but for someone who knows how the system works, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. That is why Nicki's response has not been subtle. She is not whispering, she is not hinting. She is speaking openly, emotionally, and without the usual filters that celebrities are trained to use. When someone decides to tell their story without disclaimers, without corporate approval, and without concern for backlash, it usually means they feel they have nothing left to lose. That is a dangerous place for any industry power structure. Nicki has made it clear that she is not done talking, not even close. She has openly stated that she will not release another album until her contract is renegotiated on her terms. That alone is a massive statement for an artist of her caliber. Withholding music is not just a personal decision, it is leverage, it is pressure. It is a way of forcing the industry to engage on her terms rather than theirs. She has also hinted at story times that she claims will shake the industry. Whether those stories ever fully come out remains to be seen. But the mere suggestion is enough to create tension behind the scenes. People start checking their past decisions, lawyers start reviewing contracts, executives start calculating risk. Because once someone who was inside the room starts describing what they saw, the illusion of unity cracks. This is why Jay-Z's silence stands out so sharply. In most public disputes, silence is temporary. It is followed.
What's really happened is that people like Nicki Minaj and also Kanye West, they seem like they were a little bit cuckoo. And I ain't gonna lie, people call them flat out crazy. They're now starting to look like they were trying to warn us of something.
Followed by a statement, a lawsuit, or at least a strategic leak. But here, the silence has been consistent, unwavering, and almost eerie. And that silence has taken on a meaning of its own. Supporters see it as confidence. Critics see it as avoidance. Neutral observers see it as a calculated decision to not amplify the situation. But no matter how it is interpreted, it is impossible to ignore silence. In this case, is not neutral. It shapes the narrative. I'm
wondering why Rock Nation don't sue Nicki. If you know, they're quick to kind of support Meg and sue a blogger who doesn't have anything. Why not sue Nicki? That's kind of odd. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying, you know, usually when they're not suing, it's like they kind of know they don't have a case, which means maybe you have some type of point that you've made.
Allows speculation to grow. It gives Nicki's words room to breathe, to circulate, and to sink into public consciousness. And in a media environment driven by repetition and attention, unanswered claims often linger longer than denied ones. Whether you stand with Nicki or align with Jay-Z, one thing is clear, this is not over. This saga is unfolding in real time. Post by post, comment by comment, day by day, every new statement adds another layer. Every quiet moment raises another question, and every delay in resolution increases the stakes. This is not just about two celebrities, it is about how power operates in the entertainment industry. It is about who gets rewarded fairly and who feels exploited despite success. It is about how loyalty is tested when money and control enter the picture. And it is about what happens when someone decides they are done protecting a system that they believe never truly protected them. The uncomfortable truth is that many artists have felt what Nicki is describing. Few have the platform, the courage, or the leverage to say it out loud. That is why this situation resonates beyond fan bases. It touches on a larger conversation about transparency, ownership, and respect in an industry built on image and influence. As this story continues to evolve, one thing remains undeniable. The silence on one side and the unfiltered speech on the other have created a tension that cannot last forever. Eventually, something will break, a statement, a deal, a lawsuit, or a revelation. Until then, the silence itself may be the loudest sound in the room. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you want more deep dives like this,